man, basketball is everything. Kind of grew up around the game. Was pretty much the first person in my family to play, and it's just been great to see everybody coming after me, including my brother. Become like a top player in Toronto, and he ended up going further than me, going down in D1 for a bit, then D2. But yeah, from there it's just been like all the cousins, and I have some little ones coming up right now that are gonna be pretty sick too. So it's just what we do. Our family's a basketball family, so it's been great, man.
That's awesome. And so, where does your passion for the game come from?
Obviously, being in Canada, we're more of a hockey country, a hockey town. Being in Toronto, of course, but for me, it was always about hoops, and so it was always about, hey, how do we give more exposure to young kids doing well in basketball? So that's kind of where it came from. Like, yo, we have so much talent, but nobody was talking about it. Mainstream, every sportscast you'd see, 98% hockey back in the day, and maybe at the end they'd throw in some basketball. So, my passion is about like, hey, let's grow this sport. There's so much potential.
Yeah, and you talked about how you want to grow the sport. Do you share the same love of the game now as you did when you were a child, or is it greater now?
Man, yeah, you know what's crazy? Like, I mean, growing up here, you play hockey. So I'm out playing street hockey. I'm out playing road hockey. It was fun, man. Like yelling car, yelling car, and cars coming by, and I remember too. My younger brother, always wanted to play with us. Sean, he wanted to play hockey, and we had to tell him stay on the side because he was about 6, 7 years younger. But that was what I grew up with, man, playing hockey, and then at some point, gravitated to basketball pretty late. I didn't start playing basketball, I think, till grade 8, and kind of like saw this sport, and then from there it was just, it just went. But it's growing in the fact that, so many more people have access to it now, and Canada being this, great country for basketball, it's definitely a lot more now, and I just want to continue to be a part to help it grow in this country.
Absolutely. And you mentioned you played basketball on the high school level and also in the post-secondary. What did you notice was lacking within the basketball landscape in Canada, but more specifically in the GTA?
Mainly the coverage, like the media, the exposure, not seeing a whole bunch of it on mainstream TV. I remember, we had a show called Sportsline on Global TV, probably before you guys' time, but it was the only place showing, and I think the CNN show, Fred Hickman and those guys, were the only two shows that were showing really basketball highlights. So we had to, we were outside playing around, doing our thing, and we always ran home because we knew like 11:30 Sportsline was coming on, and that was the only time we were going to be able to see NBA, because all of a sudden, we saw, Jordan and Magic and Showtime Lakers, and from there, that was just like, wow, what is this sport? And we had to make sure we got home to watch any highlights we could. That's how rare. There wasn't any internet. There wasn't hour-long sports shows or hour-long basketball shows. It was just, hey, you get like 5 minutes maybe of the highlights, and that's your fix for the night. And but it's amazing to know that little access we had kind of just spawned somehow the growth in this sport.
Yeah, Sportsline with Jim Taddy, I think.
That's my guy. I used to work with Jim, man. Jim and Mark. Mark was Hebsher left before I came on there. Jim and Don Martin. Yeah, they were great mentors as well, man. Taught me a lot.
Yeah, and as the founder of On Point Basketball, you're often referred to as Captain Canada, as you've been, an integral innovator in both amateur and professional Canadian basketball. What is your vision and mission for On Point Basketball?
Yeah, I mean, Captain Canada, that's Joe, Big Joe from Fired Up Network, who gave me that name, and it's stuck ever since. I better not say too much. He's going to want his royalties on that. But your question again was...
what is your vision and mission for On Point Basketball?
Okay, my vision for On Point has strictly been, again, to give exposure to all the amazing things happening, all the talent coming up in Canadian basketball. I started really, I played the game, but after I finished playing, I wanted to, document that. I really started by, first doing stats at York University games. That was my kind of into the media broadcasting world. Literally, I would just be there watching the game, writing down rebounds and points, pushing the paper over to the guys calling it on the radio, and then just doing it that way. And then for the rest of it, I just was documenting kids. Worked at a place called Hoop Dome, and all these kids were coming through Hoop Dome. So for me, it was just like, let's document what they're doing. And the videos took off. Like, people were watching them all the time. Canada basketball events, we'd go and cover those events. So that's kind of where, the passion came from and where it kind of started for it. I don't know if I answered the question.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And you obviously talked about wanting to create exposure. And, what was more so of your mindset behind creating On Point Basketball? How did you want to become a leading basketball lifestyle brand within the GTA as well?
It was amazing because I used to write about hoops because my training is in radio and television and journalism, and then I was editing content. I was filming and editing content myself, and I noticed like there were these commercials on NBA TV Canada or I think it was Raptors TV back in the day, and I was like, man, like, who is doing this? Who's behind? Like, that's what I wanted to do. Like, the quality and the production values that I was seeing, I was like, man, I got to find out who is doing that. And it was a guy named Jay Irving who Canada Basketball hired to do some of their events, cover them. I ended up going to, because I was always going to those Canada Basketball events, I ended up going to one and figuring out who he was. Ended up talking to him, another guy named Anish who's been in the basketball scene as well. And I said, hey, I have this idea. It's like features on our Canadian talent. And I think On Point, like, that's the name, man. It's got to be called On Point. So we did it. Great story, the first episode, how that came about. I mean, we started as mini documentary videos, features on these players. They ran anywhere from 3 to 5 minutes to up to like low 20 minutes in duration, like pretty good stuff. Now the attention span doesn't really cater to that. More than 30 seconds and people are tuned out. So I've kind of also had to change my philosophy and mindset. How do we do content, because the attention spans are small. But just to say again how On Point really got a great kick in the butt to get going is, I had the idea. We were covering Canada basketball events, and we were actually doing a project with them with some content. And Corey Joseph came to me, and Corey said, I had been covering Corey and his brother DeVoe in high school for many years, so he was familiar with me. He was in that training camp way back, 10 years. August is when we started On Point. And he came up to me, he said, Drew, if you need anything, let me know. And I was kind of shocked. I'd known him and known the family, but didn't really interact too deep. And he said, hey, is there anything you want to do? Let me know. Here's my number. And I took him up on that, and I called him pretty much right after that, set up a shoot, and we did the first On Point episode called Corey Joe Flow. And from there, it took off. We posted that video on YouTube, and everybody loved it. And then after that, we did a nice feature on the Ryerson men's basketball program. Coach Roy Rana, very famous. Obviously, now he's been coaching with a bunch of national teams, including Canada. And, Ryerson, formerly Ryerson, now TMU, which you guys are familiar with. But, it was such a great ride, just to start this process. And we continue to this day. I want to get back into that part of things, that storytelling part. I think that's very crucial. Not only just highlights, not only just what the accolades, but what are these stories still going on? Because there's so many amazing stories, and I always say in Canadian basketball, there's a million stories to tell in this sport in Canada.
Yeah, absolutely. And,
Yeah.
and you talk about how important it is to tell these stories. What do you think makes basketball so special in the GTA, and why these stories need to get out there?
I think in general, like as a sport, I mean, it's the second biggest sport in the world, just because it attracts everybody. You know what I mean? It's not one culture, it's not one race, it's not one religion. It's so many people love the sport. And even my day job, I work for TD, I work for the bank, and People know I'm involved in basketball. And people come up to me, and a lot of native Canadians will be like, yo, I hate hockey, well, let's talk hoops, and new immigrants, they love the sport. And it's just a great sport that brings everybody together. It doesn't matter what you look like, doesn't matter where you come from. If you love hoops, you love hoops. And I think even the Raptors winning, you could see it. You see it all. I was down at Jurassic Park, and it's like, wow, this is the country. And they had over 50 watch parties all over the country during that run. I mean, like, if that doesn't show you how much this country's becoming a basketball nation, like, nothing will. I never thought in my wildest dreams that cities from east to west would be having Raptors, viewing parties, indoor, outdoor, whatever you want to call it, for celebration of this sport. And that just shows me the potential is crazy off the chains, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And can you explain a little bit about how much the game of basketball has grown here in the GTA? And has your hometown made an impact on how you advanced in your career?
Well, yeah, I mean, basketball in Canada, it's Toronto. Like, Montreal's coming up, be aware of that. Guys like Lou Dort, Chris Boucher, and Benedict Mathurin, as we see now. And there are a lot more, even on the girls' side, too. The GTA's been the hotbed. If you look at the majority of the players in the NBA, probably, out of the 23, there's probably 16, 17 that are from the GTA, from Toronto. So it's grown here, obviously. We've always had a history of basketball in Toronto and in the GTA. You look at Peel region, guys like Sherman Hamilton. You look at Durham region, as I mentioned, Corey Joseph, and you look at a guy like Tristan Thompson, Anthony Bennett, Jane and Finch guys went up to Brampton. Tyler Ennis, Brampton. You got your Toronto players, from downtown in the city as well. Your Eastern Commerce guys, your Jamal McGlure. How can you forget what he continues to do for Canadian basketball? The city of Toronto, just east, west, north, and south, has been phenomenal for the growth of basketball. And it's kind of showed the rest of the country, hey, this is what's happening here. You guys need to catch up. Like out west, great players coming out of BC, great players coming out of Alberta, great players coming out of Winnipeg even, Nova Scotia, Halifax, Lindell Wigginton right now doing his thing, Chris Johnson, a lot of guys that just doing their thing. And even like a guy like in Montreal, as I mentioned, Chris Joseph, coaching in one of our circuits right now, coaching a dynasty team. So guys are coming back as well who played pro, who played overseas, and now you see them, Denham Brown is coaching Oakville Prep, and he, scored a bag of points here for West Hill. He's back in the mix, and it's if we have these guys, coming back, and the former lady players as well coming back into the mix. Tammy Sutton Brown with the 905, she's giving back every single day. Sue Stewart, a legend for Laurentian, has been giving back for a long time. That's what we need. We need to continue it. And the people that played and have been playing and are done now, they're starting to come back in. One of my favorite guys, Jamal Reynolds, too. He's a guy from the Pickering area. Went to play pro. We actually went over to China with him a couple years ago, and now he's back, finished playing and starting up his own program. So CJ Lufiel Shadrach played with the Shockers, Wichita State, with Fred Van Vliet, Clee Anthony Early. What's the other dude's name again? The blonde guy. I forgot his name. He was dope. And it's just he's starting his own training program now. So the desire for people to give back, that is going to be key for us to continue this basketball thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And in the high school basketball scene in the GTA, it's experiencing the most opportunities it ever has, kind of like you just mentioned. Being someone who was present when there was very little exposure, is the growth within the high school scene more about the rise of popularity in basketball, or because you think it's being spotlighted more within the GTA?
I think it's both. I think it's everything. There's more media, after us and North Pole Hoops, there's been a whole bunch of new media coming in now, and then everything feeds into itself. More media, more popularity, and then the talent is better. The coaching is better. Like there's more higher level coaching now in the GTA, in this country, really. Coaching certifications, There's more games being played, so you get to kind of test out your theories as far as your coaching and you know your tactics that you're kind of preaching with your team. So everything kind of goes hand in hand. The more exposure, you know, I felt we really had a chance to put it out there. And now that it's out there, now you see these kids following in line. One of the main things, and I mentioned Corey's name, a seminal moment in Canadian basketball was that Adidas Super 64 tournament that Grassroots won. It's over 10 years ago, and it was key because that was the moment, I think, when Canadians realized we can play with America, that we went down and won one of the most prestigious tournaments ever. Coach Ro Russell, a lot of guys, Dwight Powell, like Tristan, Mike Kabongo, all these guys really set the table for Canadian basketball. And you can look at it just after that huge win, the confidence level. You had CIA Bounce come after that and go down there and win a lot in the EYBL. And then you had Canada Elite come on board, and they had players like, Thon Maker come through there. And now, you have your Orangeville Preps that, Jamal Murray and Thon played there as well. And you have a lot of players in D1 out of that program. And now you have back, again, Canada Elite with Afosa Olioju. And I think, he's a player is going to be a superstar at the next level for Canada Elite. And then you look at UPlay. I mean, UPlay Canada, when you think of, the success, RJ Barrett, Shaden Sharp, these players are just unbelievable what they're doing now. And there's a lot more coming as well. So everything's hand in hand. Everything's coming at the right time. I think even with Canada basketball and the prep and the rep and AU programs, there's a lot more communication. So they're not overlapping on events. They're figuring out, hey, we're doing an event this weekend. You guys, if possible, can you do your event on this weekend so that we can get the players in the tryouts, but also we can hold our own, practices or attend our tournaments as well. So it's just everybody's trying to be in sync more to make things flow instead of like fighting. Oh no, we want these players this weekend. You're not having them, and it was just a lot of animosity. Now you get more cooperation between all the levels. OBA, Canada basketball, the AU rep programs, the prep programs as well. Yeah.
There certainly is a lot more opportunity. And I mean, we've seen it firsthand in the past that many high school players kind of quit competitive basketball due to the lack of post-secondary opportunities. With the
Right.
NBA kind of being a long shot for most. Do you think with the growth of basketball platforms like On Point Basketball, most pathways have been created, or more pathways have been created?
Yeah, I think through the exposure that we've been a part of, trying to help these kids along and get their names out there are more opportunities. But I think too, our kids have to not only look to the NCAA. I think our kids have to look at the U Sports as a viable option, because a lot of them aren't going to make it in, especially since COVID. The last couple of years, it's been a lot tighter as far as scholarships, especially on the boys' side. I find the girls, the scholarships are almost going up, but on the boys' side, it's so much harder for them to get there. Some of them are ending up in JUCOs because they're not qualifying grades-wise. So I think that's an issue that our kids need to focus on their studies as much. This is what I tell them when I'm in the gyms. Focus on your studies, because it's a lot harder right now. But I think U Sports too has a big opportunity to really be at these events more and really start to recruit, because when a lot of these kids figure out, hey, I'm not getting recruited by D1, I don't know if I'm going to make it to D1. Maybe I'll get a JUCO, maybe I'll get a D2. But sometimes you wonder, is it worth it to go to a small school in the States, or stay here and play for Carleton, stay here and play for the TMU, or some of the schools out east and out west? Sometimes, it's better to be that big fish in a small pond instead of a small fish in a big pond. You got to be realistic too. The kids have to be realistic. The parents want them to make the league. What is it, 1 in 10,000? Your best bet really for majority of players is play U Sports, become a pro. That's where most of our pros are playing came from not NCAA. More likely, they came from youth sports as well, and even CCAA. You're getting a lot of talent in CCAA as well.
Yeah, and you just mentioned a lot of the focus. A lot of people or players want to go play in the NCAA, and there are a lot more options. But the ability to get scouted in Canada was nearly impossible at a point, unless as a Canadian you went to the States to play and get that exposure.
Right.
You're a platform that has started a scouting program to help these athletes that are deserving of talent and they can get noticed. But an important step like this is to the growth of the game here in the country through the use of social media outlets. How have you continued the movement of gaining traction with basketball in the GTA?
Well, social media has been huge for us because it's given us the ability to, get these kids' names out there to the public, which they probably wouldn't have before. One thing I noticed over the years is I used to post, and it used to go like even our Facebook page. People would like the videos or the content or the stats or the graphics. Now, over the last, I'd say 4 or 5 years, people not only liked it, they would repost it. They would share it. And that's when I knew it was resonating, that people were actually very proud of the success that our kids were having. Before, they were like they didn't know, oh my goodness, really? Is this? But then after all the success now on the women's and men's side, it's like, oh, we need to share that. We need to let that out. So I think for the media outlets, we know what we're doing as far as getting that word out. Where it's lagging is the players themselves. A platform like Instagram is a free marketing tool. And when if you look at all these top players, you'll see no posts on their main page. They only post to their stories. And I say this almost every time. You have a vehicle that coaches can find you, but you've got to post content. You've got to post your highlights from your tournament this weekend. Post yourself in your jersey and your uniform. Post your clips, mixtapes, everything on your main page, and make sure your name is listed there. So if they're searching for you, they can find you. Now, for some reason, it's a cool thing. Oh no, I can't post anything on my main page, main feed. I'm like, that doesn't even make sense. Okay, if that's the case, have a second account. You can keep your private one, but if you're trying to get somewhere in basketball, you need to use your social media, whether it's Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, as your promotional vehicle. Right now, it's free. Hey, in 5 years, they could charge for Instagram. They may be charging soon for Twitter. Who knows with everything going on. But if you have a free vehicle like that, we didn't have anything like that. We were just word of mouth. Coaches had to come up 100%. Now you have a free marketing tool. You got to take advantage. We do it. We post your stuff. But as your own advocate, as a player, you need to post what you're doing. And be proud of it. It's almost like they're ashamed to show that, hey, I had 30 points this game. No, don't worry about what the other kids say. Don't worry about being cool. Use the platform to promote. And it's not only in basketball. This is like whatever you want to do. If you're in media, if you're in physiotherapy, whatever you're doing, use these platforms, social media, to your benefit.
Yeah, for sure. And how have events like the BioSteel All-Canadian game had an impact on some of the young athletes?
Oh, it's been tremendous. BioSteel's been around for several years. I've had the pleasure of being on the selection committee even up to last year. I mean, you never get it 100% right, but you try your best. It was a bit rushed last year just because, coming through COVID and everything, it's been a little difficult. I think this year, if I'm back on it, we'll have a lot more, basis to choose the right players. But it's been phenomenal. Any all-star game that you can get kids in is great, And we run our circuits, our platinum circuits, our national junior circuit, national senior circuit. These have been going on. Platinum, this is our second year, but the NJC and NSC has been going on this is the 4th year with one off for COVID. But we've had Leonard Miller in the junior circuit. He was a 2-time champion. We've had Elijah Fisher, who's now at Texas Tech. He's going to do things. We've had Shaden Sharp, who I believe still has the record, 58 points in our junior circuit. DJ Jackson, he's at IUPUI right now. You can go through the list. Vashon Alette, who's, right now everybody's looking at Vashon to see where he's going to end up. He was a champion at the NJC. So there's a lot of different platforms out there that are providing that opportunity for our kids, way more than I could have even dreamed. The MPH Showcase League, the Premier League, obviously the OSBA as well. It's just a lot of opportunity for our kids to shine. And then they're getting that, exposure through social media, through scouting, everything that you see out here. They're very lucky. I don't think they realize how lucky they are. Because like I said, when we were growing up, nothing close to this, shoe deals they got uniforms, they got jerseys, the whole nine. But that stuff is superficial. You got to put in the work. And if you want to get far, you just have to keep working. You look at a kid like Shaden Sharp and you're like, you could see it. You could see the athleticism, the talent, but you don't know if that kid's going to put in the work. And in the last 2 years, to become the top player in the EYBL, and then also now, we knew what he is capable of, but now you see in America them going absolutely bonkers over the kid. It just shows you, though, he's put in the work over the last not only a couple of years, but he's put in the work, being very determined, and that's great to see. I'm proud of all our Canadian kids. We have a great attitude. We don't get in trouble. We just kind of put our heads down and work hard. So I'm proud just to see them living out their dreams.
Absolutely. And going back to On Point Basketball, it's much more than a media, content, and exposure outlet. You also offer many services which can assist individuals and organizations to enhance their events and grow their businesses and platforms in local, national, and global basketball communities. Can you elaborate a little bit on this?
Yeah, for me, it's how can we help people? So, at times we've offered, and we still have to kind of get our business solidified in, letting people know 100%, hey, these are our services. Like, if you're a parent who wants more exposure for your kids, like, we can do written article features, we can do a video feature, a baller status is what we call it feature. We can post, more on social media. We can do mixtapes or highlight tapes. So we have a lot that we can offer. Our scouting service now, it has been up and running for about a year, just over. More behind the scenes, we have been reaching out on behalf of players. We have been, doing that kind of due diligence, covering events. My scouting director's been amazing. I kind of push that off on him to kind of make that his baby, and I'm here for support. But the scouting is huge for us. We really want to kind of ramp that up now, even on our social media account for that. And then, we market for tournaments, camps, clinics, events. We hold our own camps, clinics, tournaments. We have men's leagues right now. We have, again, we run our circuits as well. And then, what's really cool about what we do is we bring on young people who, have ideas or are creatives that want to write, that want to, be videographers or in that side of things, photographers. And just a shameless plug here, TMU's been fantastic. We've had some of our best interns from that program as well, so the RTA program. So we just love that opportunity. And you know what? Unfortunately, we've lost some great people. We've lost writers to the major networks. We've lost videographers to networks as well. We've lost personnel, but it's not losing, to be honest with you. They're always going to be part of On Point, and they're always going to say, hey, I had a good start with On Point basketball. So we're a great vehicle if you want to get into this space, and also we afford the connections, the networking, and just to be around some of these great student athletes. We have access to them. Not only here in the GTA, but we travel. We'll go down to Michigan and check out our Canadians. We'll go to Syracuse, check them out. We'll go to Ohio or wherever, New York. We've been to the Jordan Brand game. We've been to the Nike Hoop Summit. We've been to various tournaments in the States and various, NCAA games as well, NBA games, what have you. So it's just been a fun ride, and we just want to continue to help the community, whatever they need to get their basketball dreams fulfilled. I think that's what we're here for.
And obviously, you can't talk about the growth of basketball within the GTA without mentioning the Raptors. How have the Raptors made an impact on influencing GTA sports organizations and the players within them?
It's huge. I mean, you go back to Vince, right? You go back to Vince Carter winning that dunk off. And I remember being down in Michigan actually watching my brother play. And we were in the hotel room. And when he did the crazy, I think, corkscrew dunk or whatever you want to call it, everybody screamed in the room. It's probably about 15 of us in the room at that one point. And the hotel people came and said, "Hey, keep it down. What's going on in there?" And we were just like, "Hey, we're watching basketball, man." And so that moment when Vince did that was huge. The Raptors being in Toronto has been a great shot in the arm. I feel kind of sad for Vancouver because I feel they lost the team very harsh. They shouldn't have lost the team in my estimation. Hopefully they get it back, but we are lucky here to have it grow. Fortunately, it's also, I think, helped Canadian basketball grow because at least we have one team. But the Raptors have been absolutely huge. Chris Bosh, I think, even when he doesn't get talked about a lot, tough times, Chris was our all-star. He kept it going. And then you got Kyle Lowry coming in and the greatest Raptor of all time, in my opinion. I mean, Vince, it's a toss-up because Vince did so much for Canadian basketball, but I think Kyle was there, brought us the chip as well. So it's been great having the team here. Again, so many different people love the Raptors. Look at the broadcast. You see everyone from superfan to, provincial, politicians. You see celebrities. Obviously, Drake has been a huge for basketball in Canada and with the Raptors. So you got to love it. And if I may say, also, Steve Nash was huge. I mean, Steve Nash was not a Raptor, but Steve Nash winning back-to-back MVPs was huge. When you look at this guy, he's not jumping over you. He's not speeding past you, but so intelligent, such a team player. And to see what he's done as well, being in the NBA for Canadian basketball, you can't underestimate Steve Nash's influence as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And the success of the Raptors have sparked other teams and organizations within Canada in basketball. Do you think the growth, with the growth of the CEBL and teams like the Raptors 905, that we will see more Canadian high school players continue to pursue professional basketball careers?
Oh, for sure. Raptors 905, CEBL, having them both around, it give. And it's funny you asked that question the other day. Somebody pointed out, like, now the kids know, hey, there's somewhere I can play, that's not in the NBA, but it could be a step. Like the CBL in the summer, what an opportunity for players to play. The ones that are overseas come back, but also youth sports players and, our other guys trying to get to the pro ranks. It is pro, but like getting maybe to the NBA, have a shot. And people have been selected out of the CBL to go there. And then the 905 being in the GTA, you cannot discount having when the G League started, a lot of teams didn't have a local affiliate in the vicinity or in their city. To have the Raptors, like, half an hour away, barring traffic, to the big team, the Raptors, they can go back and forth. Players you've seen it in the same day they've played in the Raptors game or played in a 905. Then later they've played for the Raptors that evening. So it's just a real shot in the arm for Canadian basketball. And look at all the other jobs, physiotherapists, media, marketing, team personnel, scorekeeping. You go down the line, how many opportunities just having the 905 in the GTA for the people who love the sport but aren't playing. So that can't be discounted. And then you see CBL, how they've marketed. Their marketing and branding has just been like unreal. And the J. Cole signing, I think I think the reverberations of that are still going to be felt, because you had a lot of people that had no clue what the CBL was. And then when they brought in J. Cole, all these people who never had interest in summer basketball, which is CBL is, all of a sudden they were coming out. So they shout out to everybody involved, Mike Boreali and the rest of the team, John Lashway, all these people having a vision. And I asked him this at the championships of CBL, Mike Boreali. I go, yo, dude, you're a football guy. like, where did you have this idea to grow a summer basketball league? He was like, man, like, you could just see the sport's huge. It's growing. Like, yeah, I played football, but I see so much potential in Canadian basketball, and you see it expanding now. Team in Calgary, there's going to be team in, I think, Quebec City, the Montreal team. I didn't get there last year, but I heard the fans in there in Verdun were incredible. And then you have, I think, Newfoundland as well coming in. So east to west, it just so many more opportunities. And again, some of these players getting selected. Xavier Moon going to the Clippers. Like, come on, are you serious, dude? Like, the man is on the Clippers, and he killed it in the CEBL. What, 2-time MVP, champion, the whole nine. It just shows you. AJ Lawson, like, he shined last year, and now he's with, down doing his thing in the G League, and all these players, and it's just like, man, everything's just in sync. And it's just, let's continue to build. That's what I say. Come up with ideas. Come up with new strategies to continue to grow the sport.
Yeah, it seems like things are really starting to come together. Stars are aligning. But
yep.
Obviously, before we wrap up here, it's been incredible to be able to talk to you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
But the last question here, do you have any goals or aspirations, career-wise or personally, that you want to achieve for yourself or for the future of basketball in the GTA?
I mean, I think I'd love to be doing this full time. So kind of putting things in place to make that happen. I don't think really, as much as we've been in 10 years now, and we're going to have a party, guys, just to let you all know, we're going to have a 10-year anniversary party. I wanted to do it this year, but so busy right now. But I think in the new year, we're going to do something and invite the whole basketball community out. I don't even think we've touched our full potential at all. I think we're about 10-15% of what On Point basketball could be. We need capital. That's what we need. And so corporate Canada, I'm quick to call them out and say, hey, we need not only On Point, but a lot of our media outlets or grassroots organizations, we need the support financially of these companies. And maybe, we need bank capital. That we definitely, because if we get that and we get that financial support, I don't think there's nothing we can't do. So I'm optimistic that we are gonna just continue to grow. You see over 150 players playing NCAA on the men's side, probably over 100 on women's. You see 22, 23 in the NBA. I think there's going to be 40 to 50 over the next 5 to 10 years, maybe even less. Just depends. It just continues to grow. WNBA, we've got players that should grow over the next few years with all the ladies killing it in the NCAA. And so, yeah, for me, it's just a journey. It has its ups and downs, mostly ups, but the struggles are just more with, hey, how can we get support financially to kind of scale what we're doing and really take it to the next level? Because in America, basketball has been a business for a long time. In Canada, the business of basketball is kind of, lagging behind, probably I'd say 20 years at least. If we can catch up, maybe even 3-4 years, that way, catch up that way, I think, the sky's the limit for what this sport could be. And there's going to be more talent. There's more, the coaching talent is increasing, more facilities. You got to shout out a guy like Sam Ibrahim building all the playgrounds facilities, and Tony as well. He's building the Sportsplex facilities. That we're also in as well. So the more these facilities go up as well, then the more opportunity there's going to be for kids to play the sport, and more opportunity for everybody else who wants to be involved in basketball. So keep it going. It's 2022. I can't wait, man. I can't wait to see what's going to happen in 2023 and beyond, because it's just great to be a part of it. And you guys are going to be the next guys and ladies to take this whole media thing and the whole coverage of basketball to the next level. So let's do it. Let's keep growing. And as I used to say, and I always say it, you're not balling unless you're on point.
Jeez. That was amazing.
Okay.
Perfect. What a way to wrap it up, too.
Incredible, man.